Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Vacuum Exposition. I, of course, am Carl, and I am back from Europe. I know that I had a couple of videos in reserve so that when I got back I had a little bit more time to kind of unpack and unwind before getting back into it. It has been quite the return coming back to my normal everyday life here in the States. So I am definitely ready to get back into vacuum content. Now, that has not stopped me from doing vacuum-related shenanigans in between now and then. There is going to be a couple of videos coming out in the next month or so. I did make a couple purchases whilst in the UK. So I do have a couple of surprises coming to the channel. However, they are held up currently in customs. So I am waiting for them. I did have to make a payment to get them through the border, so I am just waiting for, well, my tracking numbers to update. I know where they are, it's just whenever they get to them, you know, we'll see. But that will be a discussion for a later time. Now, we are coming up on the month of May. I know we are still in April, and got plenty of things to look at before May, but May is coming, and for those that haven't been around as long, May is my birthday, so I usually do something special for May. So for those that have been watching, definitely stay tuned, and for those that are just tuning in, well, keep a watching. So I got a lot of cool stuff that I want to pull out for you guys, which brings me to my next topic, of course. Many of you know that I am good friends with Mr. Jared down in Oregon. Now, as he is liquidating a good majority of his collection, I have gotten some new acquisitions, and I have talked about them a little bit. But once I got back from Europe, I did start getting things all cleaned up and ready to go. So we have a few of those to take a look at today. So as my inaugural video back, I figured I'd give you guys a little bit more than I normally do. So we're going to take a look at well, some vacuums rescued, and then we'll get on to our exposition. So without further ado, let's get on to the video and take a look at some cool vacuums. Well, everybody, I figured we would take a look at some vacuums rescued now that I've gotten a chance to kind of go through some of the stuff I brought back from Jared's. I'll admit it did take me some time just because, well, it was right before I got on a plane for Europe, so I just kind of had just about enough time to just take everything and throw it in my storage units and then, well, fly out. So, but we do have some interesting ones. There's plenty more to go over, but these are the ones that I've kind of gotten out and taken a look at recently. First and foremost, I have this awesome Montgomery Ward's Eureka canister. This is the second tier down from the top of the line canister that came out in, I believe, the early 80s. But this was one of the last that would bear the Montgomery Ward's name. Even on this one, and we'll take a look at this in its own individual video, but even this one does say Montgomery Ward's by Eureka. They had, of course, Montgomery Ward's by Hoover as well, which kind of signified the end of their private labeled vacuum cleaners. Now, next to it is this beautiful turquoise gem out of the 60s. This, for those that don't know it, is the very famous GE Roll Easy. They came out during the 60s. They had a really interesting design, in which case they used two giant wheels instead of a bunch of little wheels, and then the machine and the bag and everything was in this barrel in the middle. So it essentially would just kind of roll easy behind you, and they demonstrated it going up and down stairs and all kinds of crazy things. I wouldn't dare do that now, because if you know anything about vintage vacuum cleaner hoses, well, they don't like to stretch, they don't like to be pulled, they don't like a lot of things, and even a lot of these need to replace some hoses after some time because of these types of activities. Now, going down the line, we have this really, really cool Stark canister. These were made by Royal, but sold under the Stark branding for Stark vacuum cleaner stores and vacuum cleaner service centers. Now, this one, I believe this is from the 80s as well. It's a little bit upscale. It does have a power nozzle port for, you know, a beater bar brush roll setup for the front. Unfortunately, I just have the canister here, so I do need to find a hose and as well as a power nozzle, but that is conversation for a different time. I'm also kind of intrigued by this one because normally vacuum cleaners that have a power nozzle usually have a port right here or somewhere around the front. The power nozzle for this one is towards the back near the switch. So we'll have to see what happens with that. I'm looking forward to kind of testing things out with those. So, now we do have a few newer machines here. These are actually acquisitions that I made just this weekend, actually. So what we're looking at is a couple of pink Dyson V6 Motorhead hand vacuums, as well as a Shark Duo Clean Lift Away upright. Now, these machines I got from a good friend of ours who is actually the breeder for my dog, River. Some of you may remember me bringing her on the channel. If you don't remember, go back to the video, I believe it was the 1978 or 79 Kenmore wood grain and blue canister machine. I decided to bring River out because, well, they used a Labradoodle, just like her, in their ads. But anywho, I got a message from them the other day saying that they had a couple of vacuum cleaners for me. So I, on my way back down south the other day, I went ahead and swung by their place and grabbed these. Now, it was kind of a shock a bit because I got a box that had a Dyson V10, I believe, and then, of course, the Shark. So I thought, oh, I was getting a V10. That seems to be quite new. I wonder why they're getting rid of it. But then I come to find out there was 2 of the V6s in that box, which is even better, just for, you know, upright type cleaning as well as dusting type cleaning. Now, these, as well as the Shark and the Stark, I do still need to clean up and figure out what the next thing is for them. The Stark, of course, is sticking around. That's staying in my collection, but the Dysons, I'll have to figure out what's the next move for those, as well as the Shark. So, but I do have quite a bit more that I have, including today's vacuum exposition. So to show you guys that I've acquired recently-ish. So, without further ado, let's get on to our vacuum exposition for today and take a look at a really cool machine. All right, everybody. So, we have here a big Vision in orangey red. Now, for those that know me, I generally don't do a whole lot with commercial vacuum cleaners. They're not my first focus, but I certainly have a good amount of them in my collection. But there are some out there that are just quirky enough that I have to give them recognition for what they are. Well, because they're just different enough that, well, I love to take a look and use them. Now, what we're looking at today is a very, very strange machine that came out of, well, the late 80s time frame. So, what we're looking at is a 1988 Oreck Bigfoot commercial upright. Now, I know what you're saying, and you probably, well, you make a good point. Why is it called the Bigfoot? Why is it a commercial machine? What is the deal here, Carl? You know, I thought Orecks were lightweight uprights, in which case we've taken a look at a couple here on the channel. What do you mean there's a commercial one? Well, they did have a commercial line of machines, and they sold a good lot of them. In fact, it was Oreck that took over one of the more larger carpet cleaning systems that actually made the Comvacs for Kirby, to a point where there's actually Oreck Comvacs that were made as well. Well, this is one of the smaller but still commercial machines that was made to compete with things like sanitaires. Now, the late 80s birthed this machine, but they also had a black model that came out in 1982. I have that one too, so we'll take a look at that one sometime down the road. The biggest difference between them is, well, the handle, and we'll take a look at that in a sec. Now, the Bigfoot. Why would we call it the Bigfoot? Why is there a Bigfoot name on any vacuum cleaner? Well, that goes back to this. Now, this is the Bigfoot power nozzle, essentially. The Bigfoot power nozzle was an Oreck-made power nozzle that went with a lot of canisters and uprights, and they sold and made them for different people as well. For instance, Miracle Mate or Patriot or a couple of those other brands did offer the Bigfoot power nozzle, albeit no Oreck branding on it, but it was still their power nozzle. They call it the Bigfoot, well, because it is just giant. It is super, super long. I believe this is about 16, 17 inches. So it rivals things like the swath pattern of a Kirby, full-size Kirby, of course. Now, the Bigfoot power nozzle did very, very well. It was a very impressive power nozzle. A lot of people loved it. On the different canisters that it came with, they were amazing. However, on this upright, not so much. So this upright, I've been told, came with the same motor that was in the Regina Housekeeper. We took a look at a Regina Housekeeper over a year or so ago. It was a dark green model. Very, very interesting upright, but the power level that it had, that it needed to sustain a big machine like that, well, it was lacking a bit. Same thing with these. That's what I've been told with all of them. They had plenty of beater bar and brush in the power nozzle, but they didn't have the suction power to do as well, which would unfortunately leave some debris on the ground. Now, this particular machine itself, minus power nozzle, this setup right here, was actually a Bissell derivative. Bissell made this particular machine called, I believe it was the Sweetmaster, or a couple different things they called it. But essentially what they made was something that would become an early twin motor upright. Because you would have your suction motor down here, but then you'd also have the brush roll motor down here. So you didn't have the suction motor also having to power the brush roll at the same time, which leads me to the next thing real quick here. So as this is a power nozzle, power nozzles, of course, are their own separate entity. So they're able to come off like this. So what you would see is you'd have your plug right here. To change out the Bigfoot, you take the plug out, and then there was a button that would just release the power nozzle right here. So this is your Bigfoot power nozzle alone. So technically you could take this and use this on a canister machine as it is right now, or say this ever burned out, all you'd have to do is pull this off and put a new one on. Plug and play, you're ready to go. So it was a very modular machine. Now this machine design that Bissell created was not just used for Oreck. They also offered them under their own name, of Bissell, of course, but they also sold them through JCPenney's. JCPenney's had Bissell make machines for them, kind of like how Hoover and Eureka had them do the same, and then they would slap their JCPenney's logoing on there somewhere in order to denote, of course, that it was theirs. Now that was back in probably the late 70s, early 80s. I actually have one of the JCPenney's machines as well, so we'll probably take a look at all of them at some point together. But JCPenney's didn't have the Bigfoot power nozzle. They actually had their own little design power nozzle. I believe it may have been a Bissell derivative, but there definitely were variations of this that just kind of made them different machines. Unfortunately, it didn't help very much with the suction power of it, but it still was quite the interesting machine. Now, this is still a paper bag machine, so we do still have a paper bag in here. So filtration-wise, so long as you have a filter bag, it's great. Otherwise, there's just a filter out here in the front, so it definitely does have some filtration, but not quite as much as, say, well, a newer cyclonic machine. Now, getting back to a point that I made a little earlier, this machine being an Oreck product, it had a little bit different of a handle. Now, this handle grip design was known as the helping hand. Oreck had this on most of their residential uprights, so you would have still had your switch that was up here, which actually sets it aside as something different than the previous model, as well as the Bissell made and designed machines and their JCPenney's counterparts, because with the helping handle putting the switch up here, it further had more wiring that went up here. Now on the JCPenney's and Bissell machines, they would have had it right here. I'll try to zoom in on it a little bit, but you can actually see a square right here where you would have cut that out at the factory when they were being built to put that switch in. But with Oreck, they gave it this. This helping hand would have made it a little bit easier, a little bit more ergonomic and friendly for using the machine. So definitely an interesting addition to this particular machine. Now I looked around for a long time trying to find any ads on these machines, but the only thing I can think of was that maybe they came out in a pamphlet for just the commercial machines. Being as that those would have been offered specifically for commercial purposes, I bet that they were just an easily thrown away item, and we don't see nearly as many as we do the residential machines. However, I do have something to show you guys for this particular machine. Now, I currently am, well, always adding to it. Now, I have been making for a very, very long time a Bible of all of my vacuum cleaner manuals. And over time, I've acquired a lot of them. And I just really needed to start making it so that they were being more taken care of. So in it, however, I did end up getting the manual for this particular machine. It is dated 1988, like I said, but it is important to note that this machine does still have its manual. I know a lot of these machines, especially commercial machines, even if they had a manual, they probably didn't last that long, or they might even be sitting at the bottom of a filing cabinet that's been in the basement of a business that probably won't ever see the light of day until it's eventually recycled at some point in the future. So to have the manual is very, very important for these things, just so that you kind of see, you know, how they tried to train you on how to use these machines. Now, where did I get this machine? This was one of Jared's. This was one that he had and absolutely loved. He is a big, big fan of Oreck machines, so this was one that he didn't really want to let go, but with him kind of getting rid of stuff lately, he did decide to let me have this one. I am, of course, very, very grateful because it is just such a cool machine. And I use this term a lot with a lot of machines, but it's very monolithic in its design. Monolithic meaning it's just very big and plain looking. But I love that look about machines because, well, it was just utilitarian. It was meant to do a job. It wasn't meant to look cool. Now, a lot of machines were meant to look really good, but hey, not all of them can be beauty queens, obviously. So this being a commercial machine, it just kind of makes sense. So being as it has the Bigfoot power nozzle and it has those touches that made it more Oreck-y than, you know, Bissell-y, it just makes this machine different. It makes it, it sets it aside from other machines. But he did allow me to have this one, and I am eternally grateful in it. I am starting to have quite the little Oreck collection in my fleet of machines, so I can't wait to kind of display all of them together. These older Orecks, as they get along in years, well, they're just not easy to find anymore. I mean, shoot, I can't find anything older than like 2000 if I'm looking around like locally. So it is definitely a really, really cool machine. It did need a little bit of work. I mean, of course it was used commercially, so it definitely had its share of scars and scuffs. So what I did is I did a big cleanup on it. And of course, this would have had a chrome application that would have gone on top of the lettering, raised lettering logo that says, you know, the Oreck power nozzle on it. Of course, over the time of being used, the chroming on it had flaked off, scraped off, whatever. So I did go ahead and get that fixed with a chrome pen. So that is back to new. So overall, this machine is all ready to rock again, and of course be displayed with plenty of its other brethren. So, but let's get on to our run demo and see how this thing does on the floor. All right, everybody, so we have the big Oreck Bigfoot commercial upright all plugged in and ready to go. Now, this thing, like I said, the suction isn't as good as other commercial machines, but I cannot wait to get this power nozzle going again. So let's get it all wound up and see how it does on the floor. absolutely fantastic. This thing actually did a pretty decent job. Now, I just have a very simple, well, polyester-based shag-ish looking carpet. So it's not nearly the behemoth of floors that it may have done in the past, but hey, it did a really good job. It groomed really well. Of course, the Bigfoot power nozzle always does a fantastic job on floors, so no shock there, but very interesting machine, especially being a Bissell derivative in terms of the suction portion of this machine. It did a really good job. So, well, I hope you guys enjoyed our little run demo. Well, everybody, thank you again for joining us today. I hope you all enjoyed our little vacuum exposition on this fantastic piece of, well, late 80s commercial vacuum history. Of course, it's not just history for the late 80s or commercial machines, it's also huge history for people like Oreck or Bissell or any of those companies that were affiliated with it, just because, you know, I'd like to think this was the collaboration of the century when it came to them. And while they weren't the greatest at performing on the floor, they certainly were a machine that filled a certain gap that machines hadn't at the time. As you can probably see, they're pretty thin. Now, I don't see a whole lot of vacuum cleaners that are, you know, that would fit that profile very well that are in the commercial industry. You look at a Sanitaire or a Hoover Guardsman or really any of those types of machines, and they're all very similar. They're straight and then kind of out a ways. So this machine took up less space. It was still commercial rated. It took paper bags. It had a really killer power nozzle on it. And it was comfortable to use with the Oreck handle. So there's not very many options for something like this, aside from, you know, other commercial Oreck machines that may have been closer to the regularly residential design. But either way, this machine was definitely different enough so that, you know, we could have put it in a back broom closet and then still had plenty of space for everything else. Whereas, you know, other vacuum cleaners, you may have to, you know, kind of tilt them up so they take a little bit less space, but then they fall back down and it's just a headache. But it's definitely a fantastic machine. The only thing I kind of wish that they had provisions for on it was the ability to hang it on the wall. Now, vacuum cleaners of this time, especially stick vacs, as this kind of fits into that category, they usually had some kind of a hole or a hook or something that could fix it to the wall. That being so that, of course, to save more space, but this one unfortunately doesn't. Of course, probably shouldn't expect that just because it's a commercial machine and they didn't have nearly as many of the amenities as the residential machines. So on a different note, of course, this being my first video since I've been back that I've been able to make, I know I've had other content out, but you know, it's always great to get back into the swing of it and be able to show you guys some more really cool machines. I know Jared, for one, probably wanted to see this machine again. So Jared, if you're watching, I hope you enjoyed our little video on it. And of course, well, come on over. We'll get it back out again. So, but either way, I hope you guys all enjoyed our little video for today. We will take a look at more stuff like this if you want. But either way, you guys have a great rest of your weekend and then a fantastic next week. And we will catch you next Sunday, same time, same place, same guy, different vacuum or vacuums. And we'll catch you again next time. Have a great rest of your day, y'all.